Do you regret ever getting involved in...
I didn't have a choice. It got bad when I was about 15 years old because when I did MTV Cribs, the day that I had to go, she told me, we're getting a divorce, but you still have to go do this. I had to go show off all the stuff my whole life that was going to be taken.
Disturbing new allegations have emerged regarding Diddy's alleged involvement with Aaron Carter, casting an even darker shadow over the ongoing case. In the wake of these revelations, Diddy's legal team reportedly appears increasingly resigned to the likelihood of an inevitable defeat in court.
All partied with Diddy. It's hard for me to truly get invested in what's happening to Liam Payne right now because I haven't gotten over what happened to Nick. Nick's brother, Aaron Carter.
Right.
A lot of people keep forgetting Aaron Carter was begging for help, begging for independent financing, begging for...
Aaron Carter was officially reported to have drowned in his bathtub in 2022, but that explanation never sat right with many. Questions linger. How does someone simply drown? In their own tub without foul play? Whispers have long circulated that Aaron was preparing to blow the lid off Diddy's infamous freak-offs nearly 3 years ago, but was silenced before he could go public. We'll delve deeper into those chilling rumors later. For now, what's clear is that the tide has turned. A reckoning is finally catching up with Diddy, as new witnesses take the stand and lay bare a series of disturbing allegations tied to his...
First week of the testimony in the sex trafficking trial against Sean Combs ended with a former member of one of Combs' musical groups on the witness stand. Dawn Richard says that she saw Combs attack Cassie Ventura in 2009 on the witness stand on Monday. Richard's civil lawsuit is still pending. Does that impact how these attorneys approach her if they try to color this as some way of I guess, supporting her civil case? How does that difference impact the approach to these witnesses?
I think that can be argued either way. For instance, where the fact that Ms. Ventura's case, her civil case is already settled and the money's already been received, to me, that doesn't count against her. Perhaps it counts to her credibility because she chose to participate in the criminal trial anyway. However, where Ms. Richard is concerned, the fact that she is participating when, frankly, a criminal conviction may harm her ability to recover. It may harm Mr. Combs' ability to have the finances, the funding to be able to pay any recovery. So there's involved humans, and humans are messy. So you don't have any purity tests in terms of your witness is on the stand and has never done anything wrong, or your defendant is on the stand and has never done anything right. There's a lot going on both sides, and it really is up to the jury to ferret that out as long as they are given the right facts and the proper instruction.
Diddy is now facing a wave of devastating allegations, with federal authorities accusing him of orchestrating a covert operation involving illicit activity. The claims include trafficking individuals across state lines, hiding financial assets, weaponizing his celebrity status for malicious purposes, and violently abusing his former partner. The spotlight is hotter than ever, and the entire country is watching closely. In just the span of a week, a flood of damning revelations has emerged. Former staff members have broken their silence, while Dawn Richards and Cassie's closest friend have stepped into the courtroom with explosive testimonies.
Dawn Richard said, "You've met with government prosecutors 8 times over the last year and a half. And over the course of those 8 meetings, you've changed your story at least 4 times when it comes to multiple incidents." And Richard acknowledged that her story has changed. And she said that it's really just about her memory. All of these meetings with prosecutors has helped her, but it was not good for her that her story has changed so many times. And then they also doubled down on the fact that she has filed her own civil suit seeking money from Combs.
Chloe, we know Cassie Ventura's former best friend is also testifying today. What has she said so far?
So her name is Carrie Gordon, and when Cassie Ventura was on the stand last week, she talked a lot about this friend of hers that witnessed a lot of the abuse. I really even want to be here. I was given a subpoena. I'm forced to be here to testify. I haven't spoken to Combs or Miss Ventura since 2018, and that's because Combs...
The FBI has publicly revealed the disturbing evidence seized from Diddy's properties. painting a grim picture of what may have been happening behind closed doors. In response, Diddy's legal team has launched an aggressive pushback, scrambling to challenge the mounting claims and discredit the prosecution's narrative.
The Department of Homeland Security has just confirmed to CNN that federal law enforcement agents have raided properties owned by musician and producer Sean Diddy Jackson. Josh, let me start with you. What do these raids by federal agents in multiple locations tell you about the seriousness of this investigation?
Yeah, Wolf, a very significant development here, seeing this law enforcement action taking place. I'll point out, just to be clear at the outset, we don't know that Sean Diddy Combs himself is the subject or target of a federal investigation. So it's just worth pointing that out at this hour. But what we do know is that two properties associated with him, we saw the feds descend on those properties. We saw on aerial footage, federal agents both here in the Los Angeles area as well as in Miami at those residences. Now, the Department of Homeland Security, their what's called HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, gave HSI New York executed law enforcement actions as part of an ongoing investigation with assistance from HSI Los Angeles, HSI Miami, and our local law enforcement partners. That is it, confirming that they are conducting what they're deeming law enforcement action, which could indicate search warrants being conducted there, could indicate arrests being conducted. We just don't know at this hour specifically what that law enforcement action is. It is worth pointing out, though, that Combs himself obviously has faced significant legal woes in recent months. I'll give you just the highlights of what actually occurred. In November, he was sued for rape and abuse by a former partner. That lawsuit was then settled very quickly. But in December, he faced sexual assault allegations in a complaint filed in the Southern District of New York. The suit was brought by a woman referred to as Jane Doe, who said that she was 17 at the time when these allegations took place back in 2000.
This trial isn't solely about Diddy. It's about the broader, chilling reality of how power and wealth can be manipulated for deeply harmful ends. According to federal prosecutors, Diddy wasn't acting alone. They allege he led an organized network that facilitated serious crimes, including drug trafficking, unauthorized transport of individuals, and large-scale financial concealment. The gravity of the situation escalated dramatically when federal agents stormed his residences in both Miami and Los Angeles, seizing hard drives, computers, stacks of cash, and classified documents. This isn't just another celebrity scandal. Major federal forces like the FBI, IRS, and Homeland Security are now fully entrenched in the case.
The feds had collected, at least in part. We also learned the charges that Diddy faced. Racketeering conspiracy, pleaded not guilty and denies those allegations. But this indictment, this OG indictment, which by the way, there's been a couple of superseding ones, adding a couple charges here and there. Anyway, going back to the holy grail of it all, the original indictment, that's where we learned about what was collected, including all of that lube and baby oil. And all of this leads us straight back to the freak-offs and the civil cases that preceded the federal search warrants and then eventually the indictment. So Cassie, I know we heard about them again from Lil Rod. We've seen them in multiple different civil suits now, and additionally in the federal indictment. And here's how the Fed specifically explained freak-offs, quote, "Freak-offs were elaborate and produced sex performances that Combs arranged, directed, during and often electronically recorded." Now, they also listed a couple of items that were used during these freak-offs, at least according to the feds. They said that there were controlled substances used, and this was specifically to allegedly keep the victims obedient and compliant. The feds also state that during these freak-off situations, recording devices were used. Now, sometimes the people were being recorded, and then other times, Diddy and his team allegedly would use these recordings as revenge porn and say, hey, if you come forward and report this to anyone, we've got this really embarrassing video. Why would you do that? So that's an allegation too. The feds also say that IV fluids were used in all of this, specifically because the people involved in the freak-offs had to recover from physical exertion and drug use.
These aren't just recycled tabloid rumors anymore. These accusations have officially made their way into the courtroom with real legal firepower behind them, attorneys, judges, and sworn witnesses. And now, some of those witnesses are beginning to speak out. One unexpected twist during the trial's first week came when Aaron Carter's name surfaced. The late singer, who died in 2022, had been vocal in his final years about the dark side of the music industry. He posted videos and tweets describing how powerful figures tried to intimidate and control him, claiming he felt stripped of agency over his own life.
On my Twitter, and I see people saying, "You look like you have AIDS, you should go die." And how I dedicated 22 years of my life to my fans, and now they turn.
I open Twitter and see people saying things like, "You look like you. Have AIDS, you should just die." I don't get it. I gave 22 years of my life to my fans, and now they've turned on me. Those heartbreaking words once spoken by Aaron Carter were echoed in court this week, as a witness testified that Aaron had been trying to alert the public to the dark forces operating behind the scenes in the entertainment world. While the prosecution didn't directly link Diddy to Aaron's death, the strange and unsettling circumstances surrounding it left the courtroom with a haunting sense of possibility.
Mother of singer Aaron Carter doesn't believe he died from a drug overdose and wants his death investigated further. I'm Anjanette Levy, and welcome back to Sidebar here on Law and Crime. Aaron Carter was found dead in a bathtub in his home in Los Angeles last November. Since that time, TMZ has reported the LA County coroner did not find water in his lungs, meaning he didn't drown. She wrote on Facebook, "Because of my son's mental illness and prescription drug issues, they, the cops, just wanted it to be something easy that they didn't have the time or inclination to address. Schneck wants a more thorough investigation." She wrote that her son was receiving threats from him. So joining me to discuss this issue and the death of Aaron Carter is Joseph Scott Morgan. He's a forensic death investigator and also the host of the Body Bags podcast. Joseph, welcome back to Sidebar. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Antoinette. Good to be here.
So let's talk a little bit about Aaron Carter's death. He was found in a bathtub in his home. We see from these photographs that there was some discoloration in the water. I have a feeling that was probably from his body release. So what can we glean thus far, aside from the fact that he didn't drown? They didn't find water in his lungs, according to this report by TMZ.
Well, if you're talking about the death investigation itself, we can glean the fact that they haven't come back with toxicology results yet. So at this point, and as you know, medical examiners and coroners are, I don't want to use the term notorious, but it takes time for these things to be fully realized because these tests take time. You don't, in a death investigation, you don't want things hurried up. And it seems as though some parties that are involved in this case want it sped up. And that's the most dangerous thing.
Aaron. Carter's name was reportedly brought up in court to suggest that others may have known something sinister was happening, but stayed silent out of fear. The moment sent shockwaves across social media, with many expressing regret that Aaron's warnings were dismissed while he was still alive. Now, it seems some of those same statements are finally being given weight inside a courtroom. Tension ran high as Diddy's legal team came out swinging. His lead attorney argued that the entire case was built on recycled headlines and sensationalized media narratives, claiming the government was twisting old allegations to paint Diddy as guilty before the facts are fully laid out.
They're essentially saying it's a lubricant for an orgy.
It's the number of bottles going viral on social media, with Diddy's longtime nemesis, 50 Cent, dropping this meme on X. Meanwhile, Diddy's defense team offers this explanation. As he reached out to Costco, their rep says none of their U.S. locations carry baby oil.
Let's discuss some of the details with Joey Jackson. He's a CNN legal analyst, a former prosecutor as well. Joey, thanks so much for being with us. This is Sean Combs' third try to get out on bail. Do you think he has a better chance this time around?
So he may, Bar. It's good to be with you, and here's why. You heard Elizabeth reference the issue of the recording, and here's why it's significant in terms of its manipulation. Just to reset, the critical to his denial on bail were really two factors. The one factor related to him being a danger to the community. The other factor being how he would potentially obstruct witnesses. Now, Chris, the fact that there's this tape that everyone has seen, and they said, prosecutors did, that tape was in the context of a freak-off. It was in the context of sex trafficking. trafficking. It was in the context of him being violent as it related to that count in the indictment against Miss Ventura, right, who's referred to as victim one. But here now comes the defense saying, hey, by the way, the prosecution has misled you, court. This had nothing to do with a freak off, as is alleged, which were the parties that he was allegedly having, that is P. Diddy, with all of these instances going on with coerced sexual activity, etc., had nothing to do with that. It also had nothing to do with sex trafficking. This was a domestic dispute. Now, it doesn't make the violence in the tape, Boris, any more tenable, right? Violence is violence. It shouldn't have happened, but it gives it context. Now, when you get down to the manipulation of the tape, the reordering of the tape, did you mislead the court? If they did, that's a factual question. A judge won't be too happy. Second brief point, and that is they're also arguing, the defense team, that there's the issue concerning his ability to prepare and be ready for trial. If you're going through and rummaging through his notes and other records that are attorney-client privileged and peeping at them and looking at them and using them against them, how could he prepare?
One intense moment in the courtroom, Diddy's attorney raised his voice, accusing federal agents of staging the high-profile raids purely for spectacle. This isn't justice, he argued. This is theater. He insisted that his client is being treated as guilty before a fair trial has even begun. Now, Diddy's legal team is aggressively working to suppress additional evidence from being presented, claiming there's no concrete proof, only opportunists seeking the spotlight. But federal prosecutors countered with equal force. They argued that this case isn't built on gossip. It's built on a disturbing pattern of behavior. According to them, Diddy allegedly led a coordinated operation that trafficked individuals across state lines, supplied them with narcotics, and coerced them into acts against their will. The accusations laid out in court are not only serious, they're deeply
confirmed that Diddy was truly deeply evil. The evidence was right there. It was the final piece of the puzzle, revealing that Diddy had spent his entire life taking advantage of others to the point where his music empire was nothing but a front for his sick obsessions. At the same time, though, Diddy's arrest somehow created a lot more questions than it answered. We all knew he was a bad guy. Don't get me wrong, but now disturbing crimes might rival those of Jeffrey Epstein or Harvey Weinstein. Not just one bad actor, but instead the leader of a criminal operation carrying out revolting abuse and exploitation. And so now, there are even more questions than there were before. How did Diddy get away with it for so long? What were the full extent of his crimes? But even more sinister, who knew about his empire of abuse and didn't tell? Who, out of his massive network of celebrity friends and powerful contacts, was joining in? The size and scope of Diddy's alleged crimes, combined with his control over the industry, implies a much larger web of deception and evil than most of us could have ever imagined before. Bars opens more doors than it closed. So what and who was Diddy hiding? If you let Diddy tell the story of his own life, he's a hero. He spent massive amounts of resources and time throughout his career creating good optics for himself. Even as recently as 2021, one of the last magazine profiles that was ever done on him before his arrest tells us a lot about how Diddy wanted people to see him and what he thinks of himself. During that 2021 interview with Vanity Fair called With Love, Sean Combs, like God sent me. God put on my heart, what's your purpose? I was looking at all these things, preachers and different people talking about purpose, because I realized purpose is something deep. Have I really found my purpose? I know I'm making money and I'm successful and I'm changing the game, but is that my purpose? And then I really prayed on it, and God told me, your purpose is to play a part in saving.
Prosecutors allege that the entire operation was concealed behind a web of shell companies, ironclad NDAs, and intimidation tactics. According to them, Diddy's properties functioned more like high-security compounds than homes. During the raids, agents reportedly discovered hidden rooms, surveillance cameras lining every corridor, and safes stuffed with cash. One particularly chilling discovery was a list labeled "Do Not Contact," containing names and phone numbers that investigators are now examining closely. Among the witnesses was a former bodyguard who once worked closely with Diddy, offering insight into what went on behind closed doors. Another was a hotel security officer who not only witnessed disturbing incidents firsthand, but also stood in support of Cassie's allegations, strengthening the case against the
New York City with the first day of testimony in Sean Diddy Combs' federal sex crimes trial. After seating a jury of 8 men and 4 women, the prosecution delivered its opening statement, and they came out swinging. Prosecutor Emily Johnson said the public knew Diddy as a larger-than-life business mogul, but behind the scenes, he was forcing women into sex using violence and drugs to keep them in line. She said Combs had an inner circle that helped him commit sex crimes, drug crimes, other crimes, things like arson and kidnapping. And then came the graphic details from what we now know are called the between paid escorts and his alleged victims, including his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. When it was the defense's turn, they didn't deny Diddy's temper. They said, yes, he can be violent. They admitted that. Remember, that's not what he's on trial for. They said, yes, he's got anger issues, and his actions might warrant domestic violence charges. It was clever that they said that. But trafficking and racketeering, again, that's what the federal case is about. The defense says those don't apply. And all that freak-off sex, according to the defense, they say it was consensual. She is expected to be there tomorrow, and she'd better soon. This is another very interesting part of all of this. She is about to give birth to her third child any minute now, and she's about to get on the witness stand, about to have a baby. Another twist. 2 witnesses were called today, including a former security officer at the hotel, where Diddy is seen on video attacking Ventura brutally.
A significant focus of the trial centers on digital evidence. Agents revealed that Diddy possessed hidden hard drives, secret phones, and encrypted folders on his devices, one notably labeled the Vault. While the court has yet to disclose the contents, anticipation is high that this material could prove crucial in the days ahead. As the first week wrapped up, it became clear to many that this case transcends a typical celebrity scandal. It's shaping up to be one of the most monumental trials in music industry history. Diddy's vast empire is unraveling before the public eye, transforming him from a legendary mogul into a figure accused of horrifying crimes, exposed on an grand stage. Week 2 promises to dive even deeper, with more witnesses slated to testify and potentially insiders from the music world stepping forward. The government may also introduce videos seized during the raids, some so sensitive that courtroom cameras could be barred during.
And what has been an explosive start in the trial of Sean Combs today, a former member of the musical group Diddy Kane is set to return to the stand to testify in the case against him. Dawn Richard testified Friday that she saw Combs attack his former girlfriend Cassie Ventura in 2009. CNN's Kara Scannell is outside the court with more details. What all can we expect to hear from her today as she takes the stand? And
we'll be back on the witness stand this morning. Friday, her testimony, she said she witnessed Combs come downstairs into the kitchen, take a skillet with eggs in it, and attempt to hit Cassie Ventura, his then girlfriend, over the head. She also testified that Combs dragged Ventura up to the bedroom and she could hear glass breaking and yelling. The next day, Richard said Combs asked her to come back to his home into the recording studio. She said he locked the door and then told her where he comes from. People who speak sometimes go missing. She said that she took that as a threat. So she will be back on the witness stand this morning. Her testimony is supposed to wrap up pretty quickly, and then the prosecution is going to call Ventura's former best friend. We heard a lot about her last week. Her name is Carrie Morgan. She's expected to testify, and Ventura testified she was friends with Morgan before she met Combs and was friends with her throughout the relationship until Ventura said Combs hit Morgan, and that ended their friendship. So Morgan expected to be a prosecution witness who will corroborate some of what Ventura has said. After that, they're going to call a couple of people who worked for Combs, including a former personal assistant. Ventura has testified that she told her mother about some of the physical abuse at the hands of Combs at one point in their relationship. So she will be another witness that the prosecution is calling this week. And of course, this is just week 2 of what the prosecution says will be 6 weeks of their presenting their case to the.
His legal team is actively working to prevent some of this evidence from surfacing in court, arguing that certain materials are either fabricated or misrepresented. They're also pushing to keep specific court documents away from the media's reach. Despite these efforts, multiple pieces of photographic evidence were presented in court today, making their impact.
Prosecutors asking, was Mr. Combs made aware of these discussions? Richard responding, yes. How did he respond? Richard telling the court that Combs told her, stay the expletive out of my relationship. Y'all expletives are here to work. stay out of my expletive relationship. Against Ventura, Combs told her the next day that Cassie was okay, and if we said anything, people could go missing. Prosecutors asking Richard, "What do you take that to mean?" Richard answering, "That we could die." But attorneys for Combs sharply pointing out inconsistencies in Richard's account, asking if she knows the difference between hitting her with the skillet and attempting to hit her with the skillet or sitting it down. Defense attorneys asking, "You have about 4 different recollections of what happened that day." Richard responding, "No, I recall to the best of my ability." And as for the alleged threat, asking why Richard just told federal prosecutors about it for the first time last week. "You didn't tell federal prosecutors that people go missing, a comment that you testified you could die, you don't remember that?" Richard responding, "No, I don't know about the notes that were taken." Also Monday, federal prosecutors releasing evidence in the case for the very first time. Baby. Today we also heard from Carrie Morgan. She and Cassie Ventura were best friends almost 20 years. She testified that after that 2016 hotel attack, that Sean Combs came to Cassie Ventura's home. He was beating on her front door with a hammer. They never answered the door on that, and they say they 18 when she says she was assaulted by Combs, and Cassie Ventura told her she was over-exaggerating and milking it. Reporting live in Lower Manhattan, Darla Miles, Channel 7 Eyewitness.
The pressure is mounting as public attention intensifies, with speculation swirling that other high-profile figures could soon be pulled into the case. Rumors suggest that 1 or 2 well-known celebrities might be summoned to testify either this week or the next, while meanwhile, his daughters are off.
Sean Diddy Combs is missing out on major moments in his kids' lives. As the music mogul's federal trial continues in New York, Combs' 18-year-old twin daughters, Delilah and Jessie, enjoy their senior prom in Los Angeles. Outing for Delilah and Jessie come after they've been in NYC along with several of their siblings supporting their dad in the courtroom amid his ongoing trial. Combs has 7 children total. 30-year-old son Justin with ex-Misa Hilton, as well as 32-year-old adopted son Quincy, 27-year-old son Christian, and daughters Delilah and Jessie with Kim Porter, 18-year-old daughter Chance with ex-Sarah Chapman, and lastly, 2-year-old daughter Love with Dana Tran. The rapper, who's currently being held without bail at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, is charged with sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Combs has pleaded not guilty to the charges but faces up to life in prison.
Still too soon to predict the outcome, but one thing is undeniable. The first week has shifted the entire narrative. The public is watching closely, the music industry is on edge, and Diddy is now facing the most critical fight of his career.
The rumors are that Diddy was running some kind of Epstein-type deal where he was filming everybody. If some of the accusations are true, that kind of covers things. You know, when folks vanish. Isn't it just like part of the gig? Like, here's a for instance. Like, your bit about Puffy.
How you're going to connect these two dots?
That bit is like, look, you don't have any real personal beef with Diddy, but it's got to go down. The bits are there. I'm a gold miner. I just found some gold.
You're right. Maybe I'm a sociopath.
It's not that you're a sociopath. It's just that that's part of the gig. Yes.
But I guess it's one of those things where, like, you justify, you go, okay, I think this person might have done something bad.
Yes.
And he can get jokes, and we're all going to tell jokes.
Yeah.
I'm not pressing charges.
Well, not only that, you're not the guy who's out there, like, calling the New York Times, hey, you know what I heard about Diddy?
By the way, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're just like, it's there. Yes. It's everywhere. My fucking news feed is dominated by it.
Yes.
Fox.
This isn't just rap drama. It's an expose on how power corrupts